We are going live. I think I set everything up correctly. I haven't done this in a very long time. You guys, you new Zoomers with this internet, I don't really know how to work it that well. Okay, I'm good. Hello, everybody. So, I don't know if you've heard, but Christ is King, and Jews are pissed. They just don't like that at all. So, I mean, Nick pretty much said everything that needs to be said about this, but, like, I see somebody like Trent Horn who... Am I good? Okay. I see somebody like Trent Horn, who is a very well-respected Catholic apologist among right-wing people, right-wing Catholics in America, including myself. Now, people say that he's just normie or something like that, but people like him, Jimmy Akin, other Catholic Answers types people, Pints with Aquinas, all these normie tier guys that have these cringe aspects, like whatever, simping and letting your wife do comedy sketches or whatever that is, I still always super respected them and was grateful for them for leading me in my faith, right? Showing me theological things, helping understand what we actually believe in better, giving me different ways to help explain it to other people so that they can be Christian. So for that, I will always be forever grateful. However, what's going on right now is cowardice. There's no other explanation for this. It is cowardice, it is racial bias, and it's very disappointing and unfortunate that these people who are trusted by the public to guide them in their faith are adopting these platforms, which is based on Jewish slander. For example, I haven't watched this whole video yet. I'm going to watch it for the first time on the stream, but I watched like the first couple of minutes and I saw what Nick Fuentes replied about it. But if the argument that Trent Horn is making is that Nick Fuentes is saying Christ is king as an anti-Semitic trope, because even though Christ should be king, Nick once said Hitler was cool or something along those lines, which is just retarded mental gymnastics and absolutely makes no sense. You just break that down from a logical perspective, say, wait a second, so you also believe that Christ is king and should be king of the world. You're even politically, you say like you agree with that. But when it comes to, because he said Hitler was cool, that means that he's using Christ as king as an anti-Semitic trope. Now, this is just what I'm going off of. Like I said, I didn't watch the video. When I see his actual arguments, maybe I'll respond in a different way. But going off from what I've heard on Twitter and seen on Telegram and stuff like that, that seems to be the general basis. So, if you are equating those two things and saying that Christ is king is not anti-Semitic, but there are people using it as an anti-Semitic trope, and the people that you're saying are using it as an anti-Semitic trope, such as Nick Fuentes, your only refute is because he once said that Hitler was cool. It's like, do these people, that's not taking prudence or being charitable when you're taking the intentions of somebody as at face value and without doing any type of research or understanding the context or understanding the use of vernacular within a specific community, things of that nature, where like people are saying, oh, rape, kill, die for Nick Fuentes, and people are spurting out about that. That's similar to this, but this has another element on top of it, because Trent Horn is supposed to be a completely objective thinker. He's supposed to mold his ideology, political and otherwise, spiritual, how you live your life, everything for him, as he's stated, it has been about promoting Catholicism and living a good Catholic life. However, when it comes to this, instead of being objective and having somebody on who's going to defend themselves or not, he doesn't do that. He just calls somebody a Nazi and is defending the Jews who are against people saying Christ is king. Why? Because Trent Horn is an ethnic Jew. Now, obviously, I do not doubt his faith. I do not doubt that he has a legitimate belief in Jesus Christ and a relationship. But if you understand racial differences and different proclivities that different races have, they're more likely to act in certain behaviors, right? He was Jewish all his life. He converted to Catholicism. That's great. And I don't doubt his faith at all. But he still has that Jewish bias that once somebody starts criticizing Jews as a group, suddenly it's like, oh, I'm being attacked. Oh, it's just because it's anti-Semitic. They have like blinders on, right? And I also want to say that the people who are just watching these videos, who are just watching Trent Horn, that never heard of this stuff and they're being exposed to this for the first time, it's very disingenuous for Trent Horn to present this way without allowing Nick Fuentes or a Groyper or somebody to defend our positions. Meanwhile, he has conversations with Destiny and all these other people, actual sodomites who are pro those Satan worshipping, essentially. You'll have conversations with those guys, but not the people who are supposedly quote unquote anti-Semitic, whatever current mutation that's taking today. So it's just a bunch of complete hypocrisy. But the point I was trying to make was that there are a lot of people that are watching these videos and are being exposed to this stuff for the first time, and they're seeing a Catholic that they trust and look to for guidance through their faith, and this is their first exposure to Nick Fuentes, who is the only person pushing a Catholic political movement, and the way that you're presenting him is by equating him with Nazis. Who's the boogeyman? Everybody knows. Oh, he's a Nazi. Oh, okay, never mind, right? But what you're saying is taken with more credit because of the position you're in. Within the Catholic community. So it's even more dangerous. You're leading people down a very dangerous path of lies. And that is not okay as a Catholic. That is my preliminary feelings. And so, yeah, let's watch the video, I guess. Let's see what's going on first in the live chat. I'm getting baptized this weekend thanks to you and Sap. Thanks, bro. That's awesome. All glory to God. But that's awesome if the Holy Spirit works through us to help get to you. That's always the best thing to hear. Glad to hear it. Welcome. God bless you. Catholic American man, say it with me. Christ is king. Christ is king. Change the Constitution with St. Augustine's Confessions line goes hard. I know that, bro. Like, everybody makes fun of me for my cringe sense of humor and that I make rap songs sometimes and stuff like that. But like, I'm still here. I'm vindicated on everything. I was one of the first people in America First. Look, I don't put anything on America First. I didn't do anything to make America First get big or whatever. I understand my place. I'm a supporter or whatever. But one of the things that I was first judged for when I started getting into these online Groyper circles was that I was too focused on Catholicism and that I'm being too divisive towards Protestants and stuff like that. Still here. What is the message? It's a Catholic message. It is a completely Catholic message. All right, I have been here since 2018 when, yes, it was Christian stuff like that, but if you don't admit that it's gotten radically, progressively way more Catholic over the last couple of years, right? So, I mean, I'm vindicated. I'm just vindicated. I fear we would be pushed into a theological corner because only rad trads and seeds agree with us on this issue. Okay, but normal people are not online autistic people that are doing this stuff. Like, you know, like everybody that we talk about online are like niche groups, right? And like, even if you say something as colloquial as barstool conservative, right? Most normal people don't know what that means. You know, like that's like just a term that's like used. It's probably even used on Fox News or whatever, right? Like people know what it means, but that's just still a niche part of the Republican thing. There's a lot of like fractionalism. So I don't even remember what the question was there's all these disagreements and little petty nonsense that we have with different people, but we're all essentially on the same side, right? So in this fight, Seeds and these other rad trads who are maybe against our theology, and maybe we have had skirmishes and even like gone to like, you know, blood sports with them and stuff like that. The fight right now is between Christ and Satan. Whoever is on our side right now is the people that are going to unapologetically say Christ is king, with no but afterwards, no Jewish clarifiers. These people who are defending our right to say Christ is king and proudly saying it in the face of Jewish oppression, that's the people that are on our side right now, right? So I do not like what Taylor Marshall says about the Pope. I do not like that Seeds are heretics and leading people's soul into eternal damnation and stuff. I do not like a lot of things. I do not like Protestants for being silly gooses, okay? But right now, it is literally the fight is Christ versus Satan. So all that other stuff, that's not, I'm not saying that you can't talk about that stuff. I'm saying that that's not the conversation. Read the room, right? We don't need to worry about that stuff at this moment. The fight right now is, will you say Christ is king? I just fear we will be equated with rad trads because this is the one mainstream visible issue we agree upon. We're not going to be equated with rad trads because Nick Fuentes is one of the most vocal defenders and supporters of Pope Francis. Literally every time he gets a super chat from like a Seed or somebody else, he's immediately refuting them and usually goes in depth into Catholic theology more than even I could, you know. So like it's going to be very hard for them to try to do that. you know. And if you have people who understand Nick's position, who can eloquently articulate that position to Catholics that might not know any better, I think they'll understand that we are not rad trads or seeds whatsoever. We disavow that stuff. Anyway, but that's also minutiae stuff. Let's get to the video. All right. I've used that term as if it's not something that we're just using for aesthetic purposes. It's not something we're just saying rhetorically or saying in a way that's meant to be like, oh well, I'm trying to get this political message across, and I want them to know, like, when I say Christ is King, like, we need to realize what that actually. No. It's that full stop. Christ is King. Yes or no? It's not Christ is King. However, in certain cases, that phrase can be no. That's gay. Stop. Silly goose nonsense. Oh, no video audio? Really? Gay? Oh my gosh. Hold on. Alright, well at least I did it. Alright, so pretend I just said everything I just said after we rewatched this video because you guys didn't see it. That's awesome. Love when that happens. It's my favorite.
Last week, Candace Owens and the Daily Wire ended their relationship, and there's been a debate about a phrase that's become popular on the internet since then. Christ is King. On the one side, you have people saying this is an affirmation of the Christian faith and a desire to not give in to secular culture. On the other side, you have people saying the phrase Christ is King is anti-Semitic, or it can be anti-Semitic, and it's being used by others to express contempt for Jewish people. So let's take a closer look. Right at the outset, we should agree it is true Christ is King. This is not a bad phrase. I've used it myself several times to communicate.
All right, so I forgot what I already commented on this, but I think I was somewhere around the point where I was saying that it's not an aesthetic thing to do, to use Christ. We're not using Christ because of different politics or whatever. It's that Christ is King, full stop, no exceptions. You know, there's no qualifiers. I think I already said that, so let's continue.
Communicate the truth that society is not immune to God's commands. So society, any country, can't defend things like legal abortion by an appeal to separation of church and state. Christ is King over all. But
right, that, and I 100% agree. But you're talking specifically about the moral law, right? And while that is part of it, and we want our society to have Christian morality, how do we get that? That means that we need Christians in the places of power that legislate these laws, right? We want it within a Christian framework, the entire system, right? We don't want a Jewish government or an Arab government that has Christian values. When we say Christ is King, that means that Christ is King in everything, in every aspect of life, public and private. Christ needs to be the center. Other religions can practice their religions as long as they don't disrupt that natural Christian order that we have established. Okay.
But using Christianity as a prop to promote their own sinful behavior.
Prop, that's a good word I should have used. That's what I meant when I said aesthetic. He's better with words than me. That's what I was talking about, that he's accusing people of using it as a prop, but it's not. It is our entire center of our entire universe. And it's uncharitable to assume at all that somebody saying Christ is King is using it in a nefarious way. If somebody says Christ is King, I don't even care if they're like, I don't even know, like if they're just if they're some retard or something like that, like some hillbilly redneck or something like that, and he's saying Christ is King or whatever, right? Oh, he might be using that as an anti-Semitic dog whistle stuff. It's like, it doesn't matter. He's still saying Christ is King. We shouldn't be, that shouldn't be our immediate thing. Our immediate inference when somebody says Christ is King is that they believe that Christ is King. That's it. Like, it's not that complicated. It's not like, oh, well, what is his political leanings? Is he using this, right? And don't get me wrong, I understand that it can be used that way. It can be used as an anti-Semitic when, they don't know. I'm just saying it because I don't like that. Jews like it, or whatever they think is happening. That could potentially happen, but if you hear somebody say Christ is King, that shouldn't be your go-to.
One example would be Andrew Tate, a self-described Muslim who is admitted to pimping women out and is being charged with rape and sex trafficking by the Romanian government. He writes, "As a Muslim, it warms my heart to see the resurgence of spirited Christian declarations. Christ is King. and I pray Christianity regains its strength and protects its societies against the pervasive and constant erosion of morality by the devotees of Satan. If you accept everything, you stand for nothing. This is a bunch of self-serving garbage, and my favorite reply to this, along with all the actual Muslims who are offended by Tate saying Christ is king, is from Byzantine Scotus, who said, "If we treated Christ as king, you'd be in prison."
All right. So first things first. It doesn't have. There's not two separate things. It's not mutually exclusive. Andrew Tate is a degenerate, and he does deserve to be in jail for him being a sex trafficker, essentially what he was doing with the campsites, and it's repugnant and degenerate and disgusting, right? But that doesn't mean that he can't say anything that is true. Just because he is he has personality flaws and is a degenerate, we still want to pray for him that he comes to Christ, right? So when he is saying something like this, we shouldn't take it as that's being a self-serving trash. I understand that Andrew Tate has a reputation, but we shouldn't immediately take that. As a Muslim, it warms my heart to see the resurgence of spirited Christian declarations. Christ is king, and I pray Christianity regains its strength and protects its society against the pervasive and constant erosion of morality by the devotees of Satan. This is because he is Muslim and not Christian, that the words Christ is king does not offend him, right? Because even though he improperly believes in Jesus Christ, he does believe in Christ in an imperfect way, I should say, right? That's what Muslims believe. But he doesn't hate Jesus Christ. Only people that have some type of weird, it makes them feel uncomfortable for some reason, Jewishness, it would be offended by Christ as king, on an instinctual level. I see this, and I see that he's a Muslim. He sees that his own people are defending their faith and have this tenacious zeal, and that for as long as he's been online for the last couple of years, he sees Christians constantly getting abused and doing nothing about it, and then all of a sudden he starts seeing finally some Christian guts. It is an abrasive Christianity this is from his perspective. That's what he's seeing. He's seeing an abrasive Christianity that is acting the way that Muslims act towards their faith, and he is saluting them, right? That's what I see. Not, this is a self-serving thing. He's relating a correlation, in my opinion, and giving Christians props.
Pervasive and constant erosion of morality by the devotees of Satan. If you accept everything, you stand for nothing. This is a bunch of self-serving garbage, and my favorite reply to this, along with all the actual Muslims who are offended by Tate saying Christ is king, is from Byzantine Scotus, who said, "If we treated Christ as king, you'd be in prison."
Byzantine Scotus, also true. If we treated Christ as king, you would be in prison. That is also true. But that's just as true as Andrew Tate's statement. I don't understand. Andrew Tate can simultaneously be a degenerate while also giving Christians props for standing up for themselves. Why am I retarded? Is that not a easy concept? I don't know.
Prison. So not every use of the phrase is good. If the phrase Christ is king becomes popular,
why was that not good? Because it was self-serving rubbish, and this is what Byzantine retweeted. Well, okay, what does that mean? Why is him saying Christ is king not good? You're trying to give examples of why Christ is king. I understand what you're trying to say, that he's using it in vain. For what evidence? You're using circumstantial evidence that because of his lifestyle or whatever, like I said, you're uncharitably asserting bad intentions onto other people. That's called judgment, right? That's what judgment means, right? Is not giving the best intentions towards people. And this should be the last thing you should be doing to somebody who is invoking the name of Christ. If somebody is using the name Christ, unless it's a blatant way in vain, you shouldn't immediately put their intentions on he's trying to use the Lord's name in vain, he's a bad person, blah blah blah, all this stuff. Your intention should be, maybe he doesn't know that he's using it the wrong way, maybe I should reach out to him or something along those lines. I understand that the dichotomy is different with Andrew Tate, but I'm saying in general, right? But that should be your first perceived notion as a Catholic. Right? As a Catholic, that's how you're supposed to address every situation in life, is with prudence and charity.
Among a group of people who celebrate certain evils, then an otherwise good phrase can become problematic, and you can question the motives of that group of people who say it. For example, in Arabic, the takbir, or the phrase Allahu Akbar, it roughly means God is great, or God is greater. The word Allah is just the Arabic word for God. It was used by Arabic Christians long before Muhammad preached his religion of Islam.
And Allahu Akbar, why is that associated with bad things? Because of terrorists blowing themselves up. And we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but the reason that there's terrorists is from Israel in the first place. So, of course, they're going to attack Allahu Akbar and make that something that you shouldn't say. But even that isn't bad because it could be any god, so whatever. But Allahu Akbar specifically, which is a specific thing for Islam, they have transformed in America to being associated with radical Islamic terrorists who scream Allah Akbar like as the Arab what's that black website? World Star Hip Hop? Right, yeah, it's basically the Arab World Star Hip Hop. That was a meme or something like that. So I don't understand. The reason that they did that was because they do not want God to be the greatest or to be the center, right? Especially Christ. Christ is their ultra enemy. That is the two sides now. It is Satan versus Christ. That is what's happening right now. Nobody who is on Satan's side, I mean, everybody who is on Satan's side right now are the people that are like trying to overanalyze what Christ is king means. It's insane.
Arabic Christians still use the word Allah to refer to God.
Arabic-speaking Christians say words like Insha'Allah, MashaAllah, Wallah.
It's amazing too, I'm sorry, I'm just going on an autistic rant a little bit, but it's amazing too how these people are putting into context what these people mean when they say certain things or whatever, like and giving like contextual evidence and stuff like that. But when it comes to Groypers or Nick Fuentes, they say, oh, look at this quote that this Groyper said or whatever, and it's immediately like, oh, take it at face value. Let's not look at into any context. Let's look at how the new generation talks to each other in general. Let's immediately call them sacrilegious blasphemers and stuff like that. How are you justifying this as Catholic behavior in your head?
Since Allah means God, or are these words too much associated with Islam? There are words that are culturally appropriated by very specific groups, especially in the Middle East. There's actually nothing wrong with saying Inshallah. Even as a Christian, I use that term often. What it really means is whatever the Lord wills. So the word Allah.
You're an Arabic Christian, obviously. You're speaking Arabic. People can. I feel like people with a little bit like. I don't want to be mean, but people who could like perceive things in like an intelligent way can put those two together.
In Arabic, it just means God or Lord, right?
So there's nothing wrong with the phrase Allahu Akbar because Arabic Christians use this phrase to say God is great. The problem is that some Muslims have co-opted the phrase for sinful purposes, like terrorism. They'll exclaim Allahu Akbar before committing an act of terror. So if
let's go into the Balfour Declaration and the Ergun and Likud and Medine Shabanen and all that stuff.
If a certain group of people who downplay, mock, or even endorse the sin of terrorism like to use the phrase Allahu Akbar, then that needs to be called out.
So immediately, this is like, I'm not gonna give bad intentions towards Trent Horn or whatever, but what he's doing is planting a seed. Everybody already knows terrorists are bad. Right, and they are the ones who used Allah Akbar, religious saying, in vain. They used God's name in vain to support terrorism, whatever. And then, what I assume he's going to do, considering that Nick Fuentes is in the thumbnail of the video, is then he's going to compare Christ as King to Nick Fuentes or something along those lines. So he's like planting the seed. It's predictive programming, classic Jewish tactic. I'm sorry, it is. I love Trent Horn, but come on, you guys got to switch up your tactics.
Even though there's nothing wrong with saying God is great in Arabic. Likewise, if groups of people who downplay, mock, or even endorse the sin of anti-Semitism use the phrase Christ is king, then that too needs to be called out, even though there's nothing wrong with saying Christ is king. Now, almost everyone agrees anti-Semitism is sinful. They just disagree on what counts as anti-Semitism. For example, nearly everyone agrees that hating people because of their genetics.
We don't agree. We go by anti-Semitism based on what the Catholic Church is. And if the Catholic Church doesn't have a definitive statement, we can use exegesis of the magisterium and church documents to understand what the church means by anti-Semitism. And what the church means by anti-Semitism is a blanket hatred or a evil intent and want to persecute Jews based on the fact that they are just Jews. And that has been the hermeneutic, or whatever it's called, position in the Catholic Church since it began. At first, there was Christians that were like killing a bunch of Jews and stuff like that, and they had a council, and they had to specify in the council how Jews are supposed to treat and interact, how Christians are supposed to treat and interact with Jews, what is expected of Jews in Christian countries. This is all in church documents because they had to deal with the same exact problems going on right now 1,500 years ago. You know, so we have the church documents to understand what the church means by anti-Semitism. We can't kill, persecute, harm Jews, and we don't want to. We're not trying to disrupt the human dignity of anybody, right? But this idea that you're trying to equate a Catholic I can't say that word, a Catholic continuation of the accepted definition of anti-Semitism and equate that with like the ADL's term of anti-Semitism, or to say some newfound idea or whatever, oh, well, now we have to take the historical implications and the complex and stuff like that. And it's like, no, it's the same exact natural Thomistic reasoning that you use for every other situation. Is it ordered towards the natural good? What is the natural good? All that stuff, right? That's how you decipher what is and isn't good. I don't, whatever.
And trying to exterminate them is evil. But critics who are accused of anti-Semitism often say they don't do that, or they're not arguing for that, so they are not guilty of the sin of anti-Semitism. However, there's more to anti-Semitism than just the most extreme examples. Now, I want to be clear that not every charge of anti-Semitism is true. I have been accused of anti-Semitism for simply comparing the dehumanization of unborn children that leads to abortion to the dehumanization of Jewish people that led to the status. It's not anti-Semitic to be critical of the modern nation of Israel. And it's not anti-Semitic to faiths to be critical of the Jewish faith by pointing. I have been accused of anti-Semitism for simply comparing the dehumanization of unborn children that leads to abortion to the dehumanization of Jewish people that led to the Holocaust. It is not anti-Semitic to be critical of the Jewish faith by pointing out that it contains falsehoods, such as the Jewish faith's denial of Jesus Christ's messianic and divine status.
The most important thing of being a Christian, such as like the thing that your entire life is supposed to be focusing on as a Christian. Yeah, such as, you know, Jews differ between Christians, such as the literal most important thing of Christianity.
It's not anti-Semitic to be critical of the modern nation of Israel. And it's not anti-Semitic to simply offend Jewish people or their sensibilities, provided what you're saying.
Snub at me. I feel like Jimmy Dore, this is my mind how conspiratorial, egotistic I am sometimes, that I think that, so Jimmy Dore, who I guess is like some big left-leaning anti-Palestine talk show host or something like that, he put a tweet on my thing, and it was like something about, it was a Fulton Sheen tweet, and Fulton Sheen quote, and he said, and I said, we're subservient to Christ, not Jews, or something like that. And Jimmy Dore wrote the entire, read the entire quote on his show. And I was putting out stuff like, oh, we don't need to worry about Jewish sentiments and sensibilities and stuff like that. So I feel like it's like, well, it's not about that. It's not about their sensibilities. Clearly it is, because the only people that are offended at Christ as King are Jews. Right? If it's not about offending Jewish sensibilities, then why do we care if somebody who said it was a Nazi or something like that? Furthermore, this is something that I've said for a while, and this was even back like when there was Wignats and stuff like that. It's like, okay, you say that these people, like, oh, well, Hitler is cool, means that you're a Nazi and you want to kill all Jews. But literally every person who's ever said, like, Hitler is cool, or they unironically like Hitler or whatever, they don't believe in the Holocaust. Right? So they're not saying Hitler is cool because he killed all the Jews by the mainstream narrative. They're all Holocaust deniers, right? So if you're saying Hitler is cool but you don't believe in the Holocaust, then what else is bad about Hitler? Like, if you take away the Holocaust, what other arguments do you have against Hitler? Like, oh, you like Hitler? What, do you want another Holocaust? And somebody goes, well, I don't believe the Holocaust happened. So what else? What don't you like about Hitler's ideology, right? And now, these are conversations like I've been having online since like 2016, 17, right? So like, I probably sound insane to people right now, but like, I don't know, it's just whatever.
Is the truth done in charity? For example, in 2021, Pope Francis gave a homily on St. Paul's letter to the Galatians, where he said of the Mosaic Law, which is the foundational text of Judaism, that the law, however, does not give life. It does not offer the fulfillment of the promise. If I talk like this, if I hold the mic like this, is this better?
Is this way better? Okay, so I guess I'll just hold the microphone like this. All right. The law, however, does not give life. It does not offer the fulfillment of the promise because it is not capable of being able to fulfill it. Those who seek life need to look to the promise and to its fulfillment in Christ. So true. Love that
because
guy.
it is not capable of being able to fulfill it. Those who seek life need to look to the promise and to its fulfillment in Christ, end quote. Leaders of Judaism in Israel criticized these remarks, but the Pope was just saying what the New Testament teaches in Galatians 3:21. For if a law had been given which could make alive, then righteousness would indeed be by the law. The Mosaic law does not give spiritual or eternal life with God. Only Christ's sacrifice can give us that kind of life. It's not anti-Semitic to say that all people, including Jewish people, should become Catholic and receive the gift of eternal life. However, the Second Vatican Council condemns racial hatred and unbending ideologies that continue.
Good. That's okay. So we're good so far. We don't have any racial hatred. We don't see a Jew and go, "Oh, I want all of them dead." That's not okay. Good. So far, according to Trent Horn, as far as I know, I don't know any Groypers that are fitting this definition of anti-Semitic.
Continue to divide men and place them in opposing camps. And also, with respect to the fundamental rights of the person, every type of discrimination, whether social or cultural, whether based on sex, race, color, social condition, language, or religion, is to be overcome and eradicated as
respect to the fundamental rights of the person. Yes. This is exactly the continuity of that. I wish Pineside was here so he could tell me what councils I'm thinking of. But there's a council where it, like I was saying, it literally addresses how Jews are to act. We're not supposed to hurt them. We're not supposed to mess with any of their religious ceremonies or stuff like that in a Catholic society. Like that, we have to allow Jews to live in our society, but they are not allowed, and we can't harm them in a sense that hurts their individual dignity or their dignity as a group. We can't attack them based on the premise of them being Jewish. But they need to, in order to live in a Catholic society, they have to abide by the Catholic social structure. They cannot subvert the Catholic moral structure. And that's the reason that they were expelled from so many countries all over Europe. They've been expelled 1,033 times, I believe, from 109 different countries. There's been 1,033 different Jewish expulsions all over the world that you could find documented. And I know the meme is typical, but it's like, oh no, every single time it was just anti-Semitism. And I think people, maybe not explicitly, but subconsciously, they're seeing all this stuff. They're seeing all this anti-Semitism laws and stuff like that. And they're starting to realize like something really strange is going on here. Like they're having an awakening equivalent to what a lot of us had in around like 2017, 2018, where you're just noticing that the media is lying. And so now you have to go on a rabbit hole, and then you go down that rabbit hole and everything like messes up with you and your just whole entire reality is shattered. And that's a real big turning point in somebody's life, you know? And like, I want to stress to a lot of people that are new to these types of ideas that like, keep it to yourself. Don't spurg out at work. Don't start talking to your family about this stuff. It's just like, keep it to yourself, learn as much as possible, understand the platform, understand what we actually believe in, and put yourself in a position that could further what we want as Catholics, whether it's in politics or whether it's outside in some other type of trade, or whether it's your vocation being a husband or going into religious life, whatever it is. That's what you can, when you figure out your vocation and you know what you want to do, you dedicate your life to that and figure out how to push our message and put it in a proper way. But if you're a teenager, if you're a young person, like, learn as much as possible about this stuff. Study Catholic theology, study the history between Catholics and Jews, understand how to reconcile Vatican II with the preconciliar era and stuff like that. And look, I'm a total idiot. I don't know anything, but I know enough about the basics to where I could defend the positions that I have. And I'm also a 31-year-old old man who doesn't need to worry about getting fired or anything like that. But like, you guys gotta just proceed with caution. All right.
Contrary to God's intent. So racism is evil, as is anti-Semitism. But what is the true anti-Semitism that's evil? The easiest way to spot it would be to just replace the word Jews with the word Catholics. If the actions become a sinful form of bigotry when Catholics are involved, then they are also a sinful form of bigotry when they're done against Jews. So, for example, it is not anti-Semitic to argue Judaism is false, or to help Jews convert to Christianity, or to criticize the nation of Israel's political decisions. because it's not anti-Catholic bigotry to argue Catholicism is false, or to help Catholics convert to Protestantism, or to criticize the Vatican's political decisions. I think Protestants are wrong to reject Catholicism, and it's wrong for them to help people leave the church, but I would not say they are being bigoted or prejudicial or anti-Catholic in that sense. Likewise, a Jew should be able to say he thinks I'm wrong about Judaism, but I am not a bigot if I help Jewish people.
I actually disagree with that. I think that if we're in a Catholic society, and so now this is kind of becoming arbitrary, because I think that if you're in a Catholic society and Catholicism is the moral code of the land and it is the defining religion, and then you have a Jewish minority living in its host nation, that Jewish minority, and this is completely in line with all the stuff that I've talked to Pinesap with and all the documents that he has. We're gonna have when he gets back from Rome, we're gonna have a stream and talk more about this. But from everything I know, that it is not. I keep losing my train of thought. It is not anti-Semitic to. Hold on, I have to rewind because this is what happens when you turn 30.
Judicial or anti-Catholic in that
right,
sense.
that's what I was talking. Okay, so it's not. If we have a Catholic society, it's not anti-Semitic to have laws in place to where if a Jew or a non-Catholic attempts to convert a Catholic and tries to get them to apostatize, that should not be legal. That should be a crime. So to say like it's not okay or sinful to try to get a Catholic to leave the Catholic faith, right? Or he's saying that there shouldn't be a judicial law to punish them. I mean, in a society, yes, there would. We would have to have standards we would abide to. It's not hating on them or persecuting them because they're Jewish. It's because they're trying to pull you away from the Catholic faith, which has historically always been a crime.
Likewise, a Jew should be able to say he thinks I'm wrong about Judaism, but I am not a bigot if I help Jewish people become Christian. However, in one of my past episodes, which I'll link below, I showed how anti-Catholicism is, as the Protestant author Philip Jenkins said, the last acceptable prejudice. Jenkins himself called it the thinking man's anti-Semitism, though as we've seen in stories about Ivy League campuses, anti-Semitism is enjoying a resurgence among the cultural elite. So here's a quick survey of
Is it though? Is anti-Semitism, which definition of anti-Semitism? Because you just said a total like Catholic definition, but then you showed a bunch of news clips where their idea of anti-Semitism is far different than what you just called for. So you just defined anti-Semitism in this totally Catholic way, and then you say, but anti-Semitism's on the rise. Oh, so that Catholic definition of anti-Semitism that you said is on the rise, or all the news clips that you just played that has the ADL's definition of anti-Semitism?
Past sinful anti-Catholic bigotry, and how if you swap Catholics for Jews, you get clear examples of anti-Semitic bigotry that is incompatible with Catholicism. These would include the following. First, cartoons that depict Catholics as subversive.
Somebody raised a good point in the chat. It said, has Talmud Horn has Trent Horn ever talked about the Talmud and how the Talmud says that Jesus is in hell? Has he talked about any of that? Has he talked about anything the Talmud says? Has he talked about the historical evidence of Jewish blood sacrifice? That's just blood libel. All these different countries around the world have simultaneously came out with the same exact conspiracy theory that they're kidnapping Christian kids and drinking their blood for their Kabbalistic rituals or whatever, Passover and stuff. All of these different countries came up with the same exact conspiracy theory with no way of really contacting each other to really come up with this. There's no documentation of how they had this grand plan to internationally spread this blood libel, but somehow they all managed to come up with it around the same time. What a coincidence. That's crazy. Go on.
Revolutionaries working on behalf of the Vatican, including as an octopus trying to take over the world. If it's wrong to slander Catholics with these kinds of globalist conspiracies,
that's what we want, though. That's not that's not slander. What are you saying? Hold on. Perfect example right now. This is a Protestant anti-Catholic meme. It's, I guess, that's supposed to be the Pope, and we're displayed as the octopus. But that's the reality we want. Right now, that octopus is wearing a yarmulke. We want him to wear a papal tiara. All right, that's the difference. This does not offend us. This is not slander. Like that, we wish that was reality. You know. So wait. Oh, is it the Pope riding? Is the Pope riding a priest octopus, or is that supposed to be Martin Luther? I don't know who that's supposed to be. Why is this Pope here? I don't know, but that's funny.
Like with these kinds of globalist conspiracies, then it's wrong to smear Jews with similar kinds of conspiracies. Unjust discrimination doesn't include simply being killed or imprisoned or denied a job. You can unjustly discriminate against a group. You can harm a people group by simply spreading lies about them that motivates others to commit violence against that group.
How is spreading Christ is King spreading lies?
For example, past conspiracies about the Catholic Church led hate groups like the Ku Klux Klan to burn down Catholic parishes because they thought that those churches had a secret weapons cache in their basement for the coming revolution spurred on by the Pope. And history is replete with examples of Jewish synagogues being burned down and Jews being killed in response to similar conspiracy theories. Number 2, complaining...
That's such a silly connection. That, oh, well, similar conspiracy theories about Jews were happening, and then a bunch of synagogues got burnt down and stuff. And, we so what is that implying? Is the logical conclusion from that statement that we can no longer criticize Jews because then they might cause Christians to attack people? That's very nonsense.
That there are too many Catholics in institutions of power, such as at one time there being 7 members of the U.S. Supreme Court having been raised Catholic.
Okay, but...
Whatever a religion is, it has its own dogma. The law is totally different. When you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you.
If it's bigoted to say there are too many Catholics in a certain institution, then it's also bigoted to say there are too many Jews.
No, it's not, dog. This is where you have a totally different perspective on what it means to be America first. And if you're, okay, put that aside. You're separating the Constitution. You were just talking about the separation of church and state. Now you're talking about the separation of the Constitution and this. It makes absolutely no sense. Oh, hold on. Hey, they don't call it that guy, that meme stuff. That's the same meme guy that made the original merchant meme, I believe. What was he saying? Hold on. Oh, he says the difference is that the difference between the Catholic memes and stuff like that is we would consider that or I would consider that, I should say, as not slander. I would consider that a compliment and something that we should strive towards. We should strive having Catholicism in every institution. Meanwhile, the Jews don't see it like that. So if you, and also compared to him saying that, oh, it's bigoted if you say that about the Catholic Church. No, it's not, because it's tangible. If somebody was going to say Catholics run the world, we know that's not true. We know that that's demonstrably not true. And then you point to, well, there's Catholics in these positions and that. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, is Catholicism an ethno-religious culture that has a deep-rooted history in a lot of different patterns that are not conducive to Christian nations? Do these Catholics actually practice the Catholic faith? And is their Catholic faith guiding their politics and worldview? So really, what about them as Catholic? Whereas on the other side, you could say, well, he's Jewish, but, oh, well, does he really believe the Talmud? Does he really practice this? It doesn't matter what he does as a Jew because he has that Jewish identity. He looks at himself as separate from the other people. Even if he converts and now considers him Catholic, there's always going to be a natural bias because of that. If I grew up in China and converted to Catholicism, and China was doing everything Israel is doing, and people started saying, and the amount of Jews that are in power now are Chinese people in power, right? And we swapped them, so now they're more noticeable, right? And you live in America, and all of a sudden, all these Chinese people are the ones making the laws, pushing stuff in the media that you don't agree with, that goes against your Christian values. Is it bigoted to say, whoa, there's way too many Chinese people in our governments? No, you hear it all the time. Every single other group is allowed to be criticized as a group, right? But we have to be extra, extra delicate and careful when we talk about Jews because they're unique and they have a distinct history. Nah, bro. It's not how it works. Christ is king.
In Hollywood or Wall Street, for example. Number 3, saying Catholics are prone to certain vices like being drunk, aggressive, being an uneducated...
I mean... But that's like true, like not Catholics, but like the context of that once again is that it was not just it was anti-Catholics, but the reason that stereotype came from was because of the Irish Catholics who have proclivities towards excessive drinking, and we can acknowledge that, like.
Immigrant, or the more recent stereotype of the pedophile priest. There are, of course, individual Catholics who conform to these stereotypes, just as there are individual Jews who conform to Jewish stereotypes. But if it's wrong to say that Catholics as a group embody these vices, if that's prejudicial bigotry, then it's also wrong and bigoted to say that all Jews conform to stereotypes, or that Jews are uniquely responsible for various social ills when many racial groups are involved in those ills, like pornography or abortion. Number 4, saying Catholics are so bad for the social order. And so
Bro, just the fact, honestly, just like, let me take a second to appreciate that this is even happening. that Trent is doing a video on this and showing the merchant meme is just so funny.
to justify for the government to forcibly expel them, such as in the year 1700 when the Massachusetts colony passed the Act Against Jesuits and Popish Priests, which banned Catholic clergy from the colony, or to at least ban Catholics from doing things like holding political office. Anti-Semites do the same thing when they say Jews should be forcibly expelled from the presence.
But then you say, was it anti-Semitic when Catholic churches expelled Jews and stuff like that? And he goes, well, you have to look at the historical context of what they meant by Jews at the point. This is literally a lot of what these normie Catholics argue. They'll say things like, oh, well, the quote from St. Chrysostom talking about perfidious Jews and stuff like that wasn't anti-Semitic. Oh, really? But now it would be? So if somebody was saying a fraction of what some of our greatest saints have said, were they anti-Semitic or no? Like, it's crazy. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that one group, that these Catholics are horrible, terrible, evil Nazi peoples, and they're saying not even going close as hard as somebody like St. Chrysostom was talking about the Jews. There's clearly hypocrisy, my guy.
Because past governments unjustly exiled and mistreated them. Using past mistreatment of Jews to justify current mistreatment is as wrong as using past anti-Catholicism to justify current anti-Catholicism. It also doesn't matter if the church did this in the past. Not everything the church did in its historical practice was good, and the church fathers and theologians were not infallible in their opinions on these matters. For example, St. Thomas Aquinas said, "The Jews, by reason of their fault, are sentenced to perpetual servitude, and thus the lords of the lands in which they dwell may take things from them as though they were their own." A doctor of the church endorsing an injustice against a certain group of people does not make those acts just. Some theologians and doctors of the church made mistakes in judgment or operated under mistaken cultural norms, and we can learn from them by not repeating their mistakes. You can appreciate a Catholic author while recognizing that not everything they said was good. Many people like G.K. Chesterton, for example. But Chesterton also said, "It is not that Jews are traitors, but rather that traitors are Jews." The fact that over 1,300 people liked this tweet quoting Chesterton refutes Catholics who say anti-Semitism is...
What? That is not anti-Semitism, my guy. This is the problem right here. There is no way to extrapolate. Is that the correct word? To extrapolate that this quote means that G.K. Chesterton, one of the most famous Christian authors of all time, hates Jews based on this quote is insane. All right, that's why nobody's taking anti-Semitism seriously anymore. That is not. How is that an anti-Semitic quote? Not all Jews are traitors, but rather that traitors are Jews. I consider anybody who has any allegiance to any other country besides the country that they are living in and citizens of to be a traitor to their country. If you live in this country and you are an American citizen, you are either loyal to America or you're a traitor. Does that mean what? Oh, that means to me anti-Semitic. It just happens that a lot of Jewish people are pro-Israel or Israel dual citizens. So to me, anybody who has dual citizenship anywhere, unless there's obviously circumventing or whatever the word is, circumstances, then like I understand, like if you got married to somebody or whatever, and you have a different citizenship and whatever, but you're loyal to this country. These people are loyal to both of their countries and more so to Israel. And usually they only support America insofar as America supports Israel. So I think that would be more of a problem and more of the takeaway when somebody says something like this than, oh, G.K. Chesterton, said this anti-Semitic thing, but he was cool. Because, whatever. But not Nick Fuentes. Not Nick Fuentes, though. Nick Fuentes is a Nazi because he said Christ is king.
Isn't even a thing anymore. Finally, it's anti-Catholic to claim to be a historian while rewriting Catholic history to suit your anti-Catholic prejudice. This includes falsely blaming Catholics for things in the past they did not do, like burning down the Library of Alexandria, as well as ignoring actual injustices committed against Catholics, or even claiming the injustices were made up and never happened.
We don't have claim over property of Jews because they are wrong or even perfidious. Correct. We don't have, we can't just take their stuff and, even if they got something illicitly through usury or whatever, like was the general thing in medieval Europe, it doesn't make it okay for us to persecute or take away their human dignity, of course. But that doesn't mean that they can disrupt the Catholic social order without consequences as well, right? If you're in a Jewish country and these Jews, whatever, they have their own communities and stuff like that, but then suddenly they go and they start on streets in front of schools or something like that, protesting, saying that Christ isn't the Messiah or some other blasphemy, we need blasphemy laws. We need, and that's been for far more of the church history than anything since. I'm saying? Like throughout the whole church history, we've had these types of laws. Even in America, we had profanity laws and standards up until I think the 1980s or 90s or something like that. You know, we had anti-sodomy laws. You know, in certain states, it was still considered homosexuality a mental illness. This was only less than 30 years ago. So I mean, like, the other side has lasted way longer than this new idea of like this like pseudo Zionism and false exegesis trying to reconcile the Antichrist with Christ, and they're just failing at every turn because it's impossible to do. Nobody with like a sincerity can look at this and understand somewhat of what's going on and think that Trent Horn is acting in good faith, unfortunately.
This kind of person is not an eccentric historian. They'd be an ideologue wielding history as a weapon against Catholics. And anti-Semites do the same thing when they falsely attribute historical crimes like blood libel to Jewish people, and reject true crimes committed against Jews, like the targeted murder of Jews during the Holocaust with instruments like gas chambers. It is anti-Semitic to deny the traditional view of the Holocaust if you are doing so that you can have free reign to extol the anti-Semitic virtues of someone like Adolf Hitler and use them to...
It is anti-Semitic so you have to judge the intentions, correct? Is he going to mention Nick? Because, like...
slander the Jewish people as being a threat to society. And many people who do this like to say Christ is king while they are doing it. That's why the phrase Christ is king has recently become so problematic. Not because of the phrase, but because of a small group of people associated with it. For example, here is Nick Fuentes, a well-known Holocaust denier, at a rally discussing the alleged problem of too many Jews being in powerful positions in society. I'll play the whole clip so I'm not accused of taking what he said out of context.
Now you have in the universities, in the media, in Hollywood, in finance, in government, and some people say, well, they're not all Jewish. It's like, okay, well, it's half, or 2/3, or 3/4. And what's the other quarter? What's the other third? What's the other half? It's not Catholics. It's not hardcore God-believing Christians. It's all kinds of other atheists, nihilists, postmodernists, whatever you want to call it. And so I don't want to say, hey, let's all attack one group, but there's a big problem when the leadership isn't Christian. We have big problems as a society when the people aren't Christian. What happens when the king and queen aren't Christian? What happens when the aristocracy isn't Christian? What happens when the cities and the business owners aren't Christian?
That's right.
Well, take a look around you. It's exactly what
that.
we have now. And so many of the problems that we can point to, which are blamed on various things, ideology, government, on other groups or populations, can be attributable to the loss of faith and the loss of any kind of adherence to an objective morality.
Now, I agree with him. It would be better if faithful Christians ran society. So that's not a bad thing to peacefully work towards. However, what Fuentes says next takes an anti-Semitic turn.
And so, that's a long way of saying, I love Hitler. Okay?
Christ is king! 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 Christ is king!
And the joke about Hitler is not a one-off piece of irony. Here's Fuentes praising Hitler at length.
I saw something on Twitter, I don't even know if this is true, but something on Twitter said like, all of Hitler's girlfriends were 16 and 17. And Alex Jones, I don't even know if that's true, but if that is, that's probably why Alex Jones called Hitler a pedophile. And it's like, you be saying the same thing about Hitler. MLK was a rapist, and Hitler was a pedophile. It's like, you know what? The world's a little bit more complicated than that, okay? The world's a little bit more complicated than you're making it out to be. Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really cool. So, time to grow up. We're not children anymore.
Okay,
Am I right?
I gotta see how he twists this.
Am I right,
How's
boys?
he gonna twist this?
Am I right? Let's go. He was also really cool. And any boy knows that.
Bro, Michael Jackson also thought that Hitler was cool. How are you going to admit that Hitler didn't have drip? All right? Like, and I understand that if you, like, are religiously, like, obsessed with the Holocaust and, like, even questioning what you were taught in school is, like, baffling to you and, like, sacrilegious, but that's not our political belief. Right. And it would assume that if somebody who is ethnically Jewish, even though he converted to Catholicism, which like I said, I believe that he is a genuine Catholic with his belief system, that this is what is clearly showing that bias that he likely has from years of that Jewish neurosis being implanted inside of them. Because that's what happens. They are raised from like a little babies being told that they are outsiders. Everybody else hates them. There's been extermination attempts all the time or whatever. So a lot of Jews grow up with this neurosis where they panic and all this stuff. It's a Jewish trope, but it's 100% true.
Everybody who watches these videos where he's rolling down the street and stuff, it's like, this guy's awesome. This guy's cool.
There's a lot more that can be said about the precise place Jewish people have in the plan of salvation, or how
This is like the incel argument all over again. Like 2 years ago, we had this whole thing with this guy, Jeremy Bannister, another faithful Catholic or whatever, but he could not grasp the concept of why would Catholics use the term incel when it's associated with serial killers, which at face value sounds a little bit insane, but that's because you're not understanding common vernacular used among groypers, and the teenage humor that humor transcends, and there's going to be things that you don't understand anymore, and things that weren't funny and were off limits in your generation are going to be topical to talk about and stuff like that in an irreverent way. That's how language works. Language constantly progresses and changes. Words don't mean the same thing as they used to. They don't have the same thing behind it. You see this happening rapidly, quickly with terms like racist and anti-Semitic, prime examples. These words no longer mean what they once did. Talk about mutation and stuff like that. You could talk about that type of mutation, but you can't talk about like, oh, well, he said rape, so he's legitimately going to rape somebody for Nicholas Fuentes. We can't have rapists in the Catholic Church. Are you retarded? Are you like being sincere? Do you think that like we're advocating for rape? Are you mentally challenged? And I love when people say rape, kill, die for Nick Fuentes and people spurg over them saying rape, but they're fine. They don't mention murder at all. You go, rape, kill, die for Nick Fuentes? Wait a second. Okay, I get that you'll kill and sacrifice your life for him, but come on, rape, and you're talking about Christ? But, I'll murder for him, though? That's fine? Fucking, disingenuous scalebags.
Anti-Semites misinterpret the Bible and previous magisterial teaching. I may address those issues in a future episode, as well as refute the arguments anti-Semites make in defense of their various conspiracy theories. For now, my goal has just been to show that...
Bro, Trent, debate Nick Fuentes, bro. Like, you'll debate Destiny, you'll debate all these crazy abortionists and stuff like that, which even if you have Jewish biases, abortion should be worse, right, than anti-Semitism. The literal murder of children should be worse than any preconceived notions of anti-Semitism, whatever the definition is, right? Even if it was hatred of Jews, right? I would say that advocating for the mass murder that's currently going on of innocent children is far worse than anti-Semitism. Yet you debate all of these pro-abortion people, but you have yet to debate Nick Fuentes or anybody on that side. If you have said you would, then I applaud you or whatever. Then I hope you do that, and I hope that your eyes are opened. But this is just not cool. This seems very biased, and I think you should allow him on your platform to defend himself.
That anti-Semitism, which mirrors anti-Catholicism in its conspiratorial slandering of a people who seek to worship God, is evil. And no one who proclaims Christ is king should be celebrating evil, ever. In 1925, Pope Pius XI...
saying Hitler is cool is not celebrating evil, my guy. All right? He is a statesman who did evil things, like every man, and especially during wartime, and he committed war crimes, and that's an argument that could be had. But your specific gripe with Hitler, when everybody talks about Hitler, it's the Holocaust. It's not the millions of other people that lost their lives in World War II. It's always about, that's what's associated with Hitler, is that he killed and tried to exterminate 6 million Jews. That's why it is so taboo to say anything nice about him. Can't talk about his policies. You can't talk about his economic philosophy. You can't talk about anything that is not mentioning him in the most devilish way ever. You can praise Stalin. I know this is like sophomoric rhetoric, but we've been saying it for years, but a lot of these people don't know this stuff. Like, it's such a complex, intertwined thing, bro.
Established the Feast of Christ the King because, as he put it, the rebellion of individuals and states against the authority of Christ has produced deplorable consequences. These deplorable consequences included godless states like the Soviet Union, but it would soon manifest in counterfeit state-sponsored religions. In 1937, Pope Pius XI had an encyclical written in German, smuggled into Nazi Germany, to be read in Catholic churches. It condemned those who idolize race and said, whoever distorts and perverts an order of the world planned and created by God, he is far from the true faith in God and from the concept of life which that faith upholds.
Hold on, let me read that again. As far as truth, distorts and perverts an order of the world, planned and created by God. Oh, so you mean like perverting the order of the world by creating the most drastic demographic shift in world history against the people's will? Would that be a distortion of the order of the world, planned and created by God? I think that might meet the qualifications.
Concept of life, which that faith upholds. Many of the Nazi elite believed National Socialism was
and that's not. And
however, some Nazis
first, we don't idolize race. We idolize Jesus Christ. We don't idolize Nick Fuentes. He is our leader, and we have loyalty to our leader because he is the most effective at pushing the things that we believe in. So it's just the whole entire thing is just so disingenuous.
tried to create a framework called positive Christianity that would use a Nazi view of the faith to unite Protestants and Catholics. But positive Christianity was only appealing to about 500,000 so-called German Christians.
Bro, he wasn't a
whose
religious
beliefs are chronicled
leader,
in
my
Doris
guy.
Bergen's book,
Oh, that's what I was
Twisted
going to
Cross.
say. You could say anything about Stalin and all these other mass murderers and basically openly praise them. But as soon as you say something about Hitler, you're just like the most evil person. It's insane. Meanwhile, Stalin arguably did far worse war crimes and more evil things than Hitler, especially for the people that are, like I said before, simultaneously calling these people Holocaust denier and then saying they're anti-Semitic because they think Hitler is cool. It's like, well, like I said, then what isn't cool about him? If somebody doesn't believe that he killed those Jews, then what else is wrong with him? How about you have that situation, that conversation, I mean.
The German Christian movement in the Third Reich. Nazi theologians also promoted this view by establishing the Institute for the Study and Eradication of Jewish Influence on German Religious Life. This is chronicled in Heschel's book, The Aryan Jesus, Christian Theologians and the Bible in Nazi Germany. Fortunately, brave Catholics and Protestants like Dietrich Bonhoeffer and Father Maximilian Kolbe were willing to stand against the Nazi appropriation of Christianity, eventually paying for it with their lives in Nazi concentration camps. For these men, Christ was truly their king, and Hitler was not awesome. Denying the Holocaust happened is a slap in the face to the real Christians.
The only people that this is pandering to are Jews and people who don't know any better, and it's kind of gross. Like, the only people that this is making happy are the enemies of Christ, essentially. Like, who is this for? Every single person, if you say Christ is king, we know what that means. You didn't need to do this. This is very, from face appearance, is very disingenuous, very uncharitable. I don't even think you reached out to Nick Fuentes before you made this and actually got a response and said, oh, maybe you want to do a talk or something. I don't like this at all. And the way that you're connecting these things and trying to make it the same thing, not cool, man. One thought doesn't logically follow into the other. Like, you gotta work on your exegesis when it comes to this stuff, man.
Who were willing to give their lives to save people from genocide. The true spirit of Christ the King can be seen in a secret radio campaign led by Sefton Delmer, a British journalist who was born in Germany and knew Hitler personally. These radio shows that sounded like real German...
St. Kolbe, who is a martyr that was killed during World War II, and people always like to use him as... like, oh, you don't believe in the Holocaust? Well, what about St. Maximilian Kolbe, right? I think I'm pronouncing his name right. That has nothing to do. We're not saying that people weren't persecuted and stuff. The people who don't believe in the Holocaust, it's not like that they're just saying something and they have, most of the time, they have any idea what they're talking about. They've like looked into this stuff probably for years and like actually have some semblance of an idea of like what they're talking about, you know? But the point I was going to make is that just because we can simultaneously understand that St. Kolbe was a martyr and a great Christian for trying to help people who he felt were unjustly persecuted against people who were stripping away the human dignity of individuals, and he was trying to hide them. But let's also not say that, oh, well, this was because Hitler hated Catholics and made Catholics the enemy of the state and stuff like that. They were not killed because of them being Catholic. They're still martyrs, but they were killed for being enemies of the state, for protecting enemies, right? Allegedly, if I'm getting my history right, which I could be wrong. But, you know, and they died because they were trying to do the Christian thing. Whether or not you agree with that being the Christian thing to do, I would say it actually is the Christian thing to do. If you think people are going to be killed by your government and you're protecting them in your house, that would be the charitable Christian thing to do. But to equate that with, oh yeah, he just hates all Christians or something like that, it's just not it's not a good faith argument.
Broadcasts hurt Nazi morale by broadcasting Allied victories, as well as rumors of things like Nazi officers sleeping with German soldiers' wives while they're...
Somebody said it's like they think the two options are 6 million Jews or denying anyone died at all. So true. It's like, oh, you believe in the Holocaust? And you're like, well, yeah, I believe that there was unjust persecution against Jews and that many people died. Oh, no. But do you believe that there were 6 million, that there was gas chambers, that there was a systematic order given by Hitler himself to exterminate the Jewish population from Europe and blah, blah, blah. Do you address the uniqueness of this situation? And it's like, bro, chill out. Why are you so obsessed with the Holocaust? Why are you so fixated on me accepting what you're telling me to accept about the Holocaust? You know, it's very, very strange behavior. Why are there no other historical events where like people get so riled up? Because you don't understand the effect it had on our people. Oh, my bad.
broadcasting Allied victories, as well as rumors of things like Nazi officers sleeping with German soldiers' wives while they're dying on the front lines. However, one of the stations was hosted by a rural Austrian priest who didn't resort to any propaganda or falsehoods. All he did was describe true reports about how thousands of sick people, political prisoners, and Jews were being killed in concentration camp gas chambers. And the station's name was Christus der König.
Bro, do you even understand like how the government in Germany like functioned at this time? Do you think that Hitler was giving like yes, we believe that there was like mass executions, war crimes, all this stuff, all this horrible bad stuff that happens during war, right? That doesn't make it right, of course, but it happens in every single war over the last 100 years, right? Do you think that the people that like are saying anything positive about Hitler are then therefore advocating for any potential war crimes? Like, it's just not a logical following thing. If somebody says, if somebody's, like I said before, if somebody says they support Stalin or something like that, you'll be like, oh, this guy's just like a radical communist, like left winger or whatever. But it's not like, so you think that he supports genociding Ukrainians? No, what do they say? A lot of people say, oh, the Holodomor didn't even happen and stuff like that. Other genocides, what was it? What was that genocide by the Young Turks? The Armenian genocide. There was a whole thing of like trying to deny that and stuff like that. That's fine. You're not going to risk your job if you deny that. But if you question the official narrative and the exact number of the Holocaust, then
in English, Christ the King. As we enter into Holy Week, I pray all of us will strive to make Christ the King of our own lives and reject any ideology that would slander the Jewish people, since our Lord said in John 4:22 that salvation is from the Jews. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a very blessed day.
Bro, okay, yeah, but don't put context into that, right? That's how you're going to end that video? Salvation is from the Jews? After you just did this whole context thing and what people mean? What do you mean by that? What do you mean salvation is from the Jews? Right? I mean, I'm going to be charitable and understand that you know Catholic theology and I know what you're talking about and stuff like that, but if I was going to interpret that closing statement the way that you just interpreted Christ as King, then you're basically an Antichrist. Right? So, hold on. Fix this. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna look at what you guys are saying. If I could figure this technology thing out. Whoop. Okay. All right. Did he say St. Cole was killed in a gas chamber? Did he? I hope not. I don't think so. Gang has killed 1 million people in Baghdad. So yeah, if you don't believe that, what does Trent think we did with Japanese POWs when did... yeah, so like that's so true. If you say Franklin D. Roosevelt, right? Is that who did it? FDR? Is that the one who did the Japanese internment camps in World War II? Whatever. Is Trent even Catholic? Yo, and not for nothing, like... You want to talk about like not understanding humor? I'm not attacking his wife, but she is a public person, and her videos are not great. All right, like Trent, what's his wife's name? Too far from Laura. Let's see. Oh, she quit YouTube? Oh no, is that a sad one?
I will have the Wiener Schnitzel, extra Wiener. That's disgusting. I will also have the Wiener Schnitzel. 2 hot dogs, 1 corn dog, 1 Vienna sausage, don't ask, don't tell, 1 side of the sticky buns, and a foot long. Hypocrite. By the way, can anybody pay for my breakfast? Times are a little tough right now. I don't have food, but what I do have is a particular set of skills that can bring shame to any Catholic company who chooses to work with me. I eat babies for breakfast. We loved you as Aslan. You have the best voice we've ever heard. Will you pray at our prayer breakfast? He eats babies for breakfast. What's your statement? What's that about? Shut up, Brian. Nobody asked you, Brian. I think today I'm gonna eat lots of bagels.
What's wrong with your voice?
Sometimes I get stuck in character. Today's Ben Shapiro, but I figure it's better than the rest of the guys like this guy.
Stop, Norman!
Are you ready to eat? First you need to
Say your prayer!
See, I can't help it. I can't. It's constant. It's constant. Breakfast?
So that's about as long as I could take of that. So I don't think that's good content at all. Like, and I'm not trying to bash on her, but like, come on, like that's the type of videos you're making. You're clearly out of touch with the youth, but just a little bit, just a tiny bit. So maybe if that's the kind of content you're producing, maybe you should like have a little self-reflection. I don't know, man. But yeah, but like, and joking about these types of people are cool. But I know that they said she said the Nick joke too or something. Her impression. let's check YouTube real quick. Oh, hello. Let's YouTube. Somebody answer a question. Florida Crusader. I have a question. Go to SSPX and already am gonna get baptized there soon and have a godfather there, but I don't think the priest there refuses to submit to the Pope. He actually has a pic of him. Okay, but don't go to SSPX. Ponsap and I did numerous videos, and if you just go to my chat and type in SSPX, you'll just get verbally raped. So I would recommend going back to the Ponsap and Mine's episode where we discussed the SSPX, and he explains why they're canonically irregular and that it doesn't fulfill your Sunday obligation to go to the SSPX, and it's, if anything, it's very imprudent to attend SSPX masses on the regular. It's only really for emergency, as it's not fulfillment. I'm sure there's going to be people right now in my comments saying that I'm wrong or whatever, but that's what Ponsap said. I trust him. So yeah, don't go to SSPX. Get baptized in either the FSSP or some other reverent Catholic mass that is Catholic Church that is in full communion with Rome. Trent Horn embodying the actually energy. Crazy. It's wrong to question the Holocaust in any way, but Jews can question and outrightly deny Jesus is the Messiah. Yeah, exactly. Denying Christ's resurrection and denying that he is God is far worse than any preconceived notion or mutation of anti-Semitism. They're not equivalent in any way. The same way that the Zionists say that there's no equivalency, this is a unique thing, like it's not the same. We can kill all these children because the Jewish people, it was like a 17 million times 9/11 because the Jews are worth 12.7 goyams or whatever the case is. It's like, yeah, no. My mic is still very low. No, it's not. But yeah, but then, but like that whole dichotomy of like, we're fine with sodomites, we're fine with Jews who deny Christ, we're fine with all of this horrible stuff, and we can criticize everything else, but as soon as we criticize Jews as a group, no, it's not. It's just complete hypocrisy. It's honestly silly goose pharisaical nonsense, if I'm pharisaical nonsense, I should say. Silly goose pharisaical nonsense. Aquarium Grower percent super chat, W Spexo W stream, thank you very much. All right. 25,000 women and children dead in less than a year, by the way. Yeah. Chosen people of God, by the way. And I'm doing mad research for this 9/11 video that I'm making or whatever, and I'm learning all about like how the Israeli intelligence agency and the IDF was like created and stuff like that, and you see all of these parallels of like what's going on today in Jewish fractionalism compared to what happened when like Israel was trying to get established. Like, long story short, it was like two paramilitary groups. One was the Irgun and one was the Likud. They were both Zionists, but they were less radical Zionists than each other. The Irgun was super radical Zionists, and they're the ones that were responsible for the King David bombing, which they had Jews dress up as Arabs to bomb the King David Hotel, planting bombs in milk crates, and 91 people died. So the Irgun was the radical Zionist, and the Haganah was the more diplomatic Zionists who wanted to spread the greater Israel expansion through pragmatism and legislation and things of that nature. And but they were still like fighting on the same side as each other. And then once David Ben-Gurion became prime minister of Israel, he took all of those paramilitary groups, the Irgun, the Haganah, and all that stuff, and merged it into the IDF. So the IDF, and the first prime minister of Israel is literally a terrorist, right? Then the IDF is literally Israel's military that was formed by absorbing all of the illegal terrorist paramilitary groups. And then the most radical illegal terrorist paramilitary group, the Irgun, the leader of that, Menachem Benin, who is the self-proclaimed father of terrorism of the world, right, creates the Likud party. The Likud party is the most radical Zionist right-wing Israel party and is the dominating force in Israel. And who's part of that? Benjamin Netanyahu. It's crazy. But you saw this Jewish fractionalism the point I was trying to make was that you had these extreme Zionists, and then you had like these pragmatic Zionists who had like, oh, we eventually want the greater Israel. We eventually want to basically steal all these sovereign territories from different governments and different countries that are supposedly in where we have a blessed right to. We want to do that, but the David Ben-Gurion Zionists want to do it at the speed limit. They want to do it legitimately. They don't want to turn the world against them. Meanwhile, the might is right Zionists of the Likud and Ergun don't care. They just want to complete, well, we'll use terrorism, we'll kill civilians, we'll use manipulation, stuff like that. So, but they're still all fighting for the same interest. They're still trying to do what's best for the Jews as a whole. They just have different pathways of getting there. But when it comes down to it, like in the British Mandate, when they were fighting alongside each other, they know that they're fighting for Jewish sovereignty. It's only when extreme events occur where Jewish fractionalism becomes so well defined, you know? So, yeah. Okay, yeah, landmass is not schismatic. FSSP has Latin masses. You just have to make sure the Latin masses, like the church that is doing the Latin mass, is doing so under the jurisdiction of their bishop and in communion with Rome, as far as I remember. But yeah, that's about going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I streamed way longer than I thought I was going to. Okay, bye. God bless. I love you. Christ is King. Bye.